So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dementia Education Program's Caring Conversations, a free community outreach initiative to provide virtual support to care partners and people living with dementia. I'm just starting off a little slowly so that everyone gets into the room. I think everyone's here now. So I wanted to say that the McGill Dementia Education Program, for those of you who don't already know, offers a comprehensive range of free resources to educate and support people living with dementia, family and informal caregivers, healthcare professionals, medical students, and the public at large. An important resource is Dementia, Your Companion Guide, which is available online for free in 14 languages. Printed copies can also be obtained on Amazon. And we also recently launched a free online course designed to educate and support care partners of people living with dementia. It's available in English and French and consists of 10 self-guided online modules that the learner can go through at their own pace. It includes expert advice, shared experiences from participants, and solutions to the challenges of being a care partner in the context of dementia. Caring Conversations is an initiative of the McGill Dementia Education Program and is supported by private donations. This episode and all episodes this year are supported by the Petro-Canada Caremakers Foundation. And now let's meet our moderators. Lucy Barylak received her Master of Social Work from the McGill University School of Social Work. She has developed evidence-based training for seniors and caregivers, and she has lectured in the field of social gerontology and presented in major conferences. Her research studies have been published in numerous journals. Ms. Barylak received the Queen's Jubilee Award for her role in developing a national coalition to support caregivers across Canada. Joanne Besner is an educator, professional coach, and caregiver. She received her Bachelor of Social Work and Master of Business Administration from McGill University. Her 35-year career in public community health care and in Quebec spans many roles, including frontline case manager, clinical supervisor, manager, researcher, and trainer. Today's topic is managing emotions that are triggered by caregiving. Lucy and Joanne will talk about the range of emotions that caregivers can experience and provide tips on how to manage them. We ask that you keep your microphones turned off. We will unmute people as needed once we open the conversation. Please note that we are recording today's webinar, and the recording will be posted on the Caring Conversations page of our website. It'll be on the past episodes page, right at the bottom. So Joanne and Lucy.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Joanne and I felt it was important to present a session on emotions. For our session today, we will focus on 3 emotions. It's a way for us to share with you what research tells us about some of the common emotional difficulties that care partners face when caring for a family member. We hope to provide you with information, tips, and an opportunity to have a caring conversation at the end of our presentation. So let's look at what we're going to cover today. We are going to be covering emotions and your feelings, caregiver challenges that trigger these emotions, anger, sadness, uncertainty, and how to manage emotions. So we know that emotions are emotional highs and lows. Let's look at that. Whenever you become a care partner, gradually or all of a sudden due to a crisis, or whether you are a care partner willingly or by default, many emotions surface when you take on the job of caregiving. Some of these feelings happen right away, and some don't surface until you have been caregiving for a while. Whatever your situation, it's important to remember that you too are important. All your emotions, good and bad, about caregiving are not only allowed, but valid, important, and normal. Remember, there are 2 people in this relationship. One's needs does not outnumber the other. So let's talk about emotions. Emotions are conscious mental reactions and can be experienced as strong feelings in our bodies, our thoughts, our ideas. can bring our feelings and emotions to the surface. As humans, we all have emotions regardless of our culture. It can often, caregivers often are very reluctant to express negative feelings for fear of being judged by others or by themselves. Many care partners don't want to burden others with their problems. If you don't acknowledge and deal with your feelings and your emotions, they will not go away, and you can suffer the consequences of physical illness, trouble coping with anxiety, or substance abuse or poor sleep. Emotions can dictate how we respond to most situations. They are always present, even if we don't acknowledge them. Our emotions often determine how we live our lives. For example, feeling angry, hurt, sad, or resentful can influence how we treat and respond to family, friends, people in general, including the person we care for. Now, burden. Research tells us that care partners' burden is reportedly higher amongst those providing care to a spouse or a partner. Caregiving usually involves tasks above and beyond assisting with activities of daily living like bathing, dressing, and eating, but also medical or nursing tasks that are typically performed by a nurse, as well as our everyday chores that we have to do just to keep up with the household. While caregiving can be a genuinely rewarding experience, care partners often face common challenges that leave them overwhelmed, anxious, and intimidated by their duties. So let's look at some of the challenges that caregivers may go through. We know that managing our time is difficult. Care partners often find they have less time for themselves and other family members. They often spend so much time on caregiving duties that they end up sacrificing the things they enjoy, like hobbies or vacations, or they have trouble balancing work schedule around caregiving. There's definitely an emotional and physical stress. Care partners report that their health has gotten worse as the result of caregiving. Caring for chronic conditions like dementia or Alzheimer's disease seem to cause the most emotional stress. The physical demands of caregiving can also take a toll when the duties include lifting and helping with mobility. There could be a lack of privacy. Care partners often report feeling a lack of privacy in the home once they've taken on a loved one and add services onto it and care providers that enter through the house, coming and going. Especially in smaller places, it can be difficult to set boundaries and get away from the constant interaction. And many times they say it feels like we're in a hospital. There is financial strain because most family care partners are unpaid. They can start to feel some financial stress, especially when caregiving takes them away from a paying job. The longer care partner has been providing care, the more financial strain they feel. For example, you're having to buy supplies, equipment, whatever, and many times even getting help at home for you to have a little bit of respite can be extremely expensive. Sleep deprivation, that's a big one. Lack of sleep can be a big issue for care partners, as often the person's sleep-wake cycle can be mixed up. They're either up all night and sleeping all day. Sleep deprivation can take a huge toll on a care partner who is already feeling the strain of being burned from both ends. The other thing that a lot of caregivers feel, they're afraid to ask for help. They feel ashamed to ask for help from others. They feel they must assume the full caregiver burden. Asking for assistance may be a sign of weakness for them. The care partner, in turn, starts to feel guilty that they aren't providing the best care that they could possibly do. Now, isolation, a family care partner is often at high risk for depression. Oftentimes, caregiving duties take up so much of their time that they no longer maintain social connections outside of the house. Let's look at the physical and emotional impacts. Problems that some care partners really have, and we really have to be aware of that. there are mental health concerns because emotions can run so high. So if we look at some of the mental health concerns, there can definitely be depression, there can be anxiety, there can be stress, negative effects, including guilt, sadness, dread, worries, ambivalent about the care, becoming easily irritated or upset, feeling isolated or abandoned by others, and even witnessing the suffering of a relative. It's very, very traumatic. Anticipatory grief. So all these things are part of that. We really need to be concerned about our mental well-being. Now, I can also say that emotions can also affect your physical and your cognitive health. So when we look at the physical part, it's important to recognize our fatigue. You're tired all the time. You have sleep problems. You're either sleeping too much or you're not sleeping at all. You're pacing up and down at night. There could be a weakened immune system, adverse changes in your health status. You're getting sick more often. There's risk of illness, injury, mortality, greater health services use, and medications. So all these things you have to be very conscious of. But there also is a concern about functional and cognitive impairment, believe it or not, with those emotions that you have. So there's a greater need for help with ADL assistance, especially among dementia caregivers. Difficulty with memory and concentration. You're wondering what's happening to me. You're forgetful. Is something going wrong with my cognitive behavior? So all these feelings are very, very real. I want to also talk a little bit about family challenges. Your emotions can really trigger that if this is what you're dealing with, issues around conflicts about the care. Some other family members don't feel that you're either doing the right things or should be doing things differently. You may not have a good relationship with a sibling. You're dealing with stepchildren. There's so many issues within families. What I want to say is Joanne and I did a whole session on this. So if some of your emotions are due to family challenges, you can definitely look at our podcast that we had dealt with this whole family issue. I want to talk about anger. What is anger? Anger can look different for different people. It might be anger towards the person you are supporting when you see them making risky decisions, they're not listening to you, they're showing difficult behavior, or anger towards the healthcare system because it takes so long to get an assessment or services for the person you're caring for. Anger can also stem from resentment, which is more about a feeling of unfairness or injustice. You may feel overwhelmed by the demands of your caregiving role or angry at other family members for not stepping up. Maybe you've had a complicated, tense relationship with the care recipient, and this is a role you never imagined for yourself. Social isolation, which many care partners experience as they spend more time with the person they're supporting, can also fuel that whole anger. Other times, resentment can start to bubble up when you're around people who don't have to care for a parent, spouse, or partner, or when time is taken away from your own needs, as well as financial stress. Many care partners don't feel comfortable admitting that they are angry. Socially and culturally, anger isn't viewed as an appropriate emotion when caring for a family member. They may feel that if they tell someone about their anger, it would be mistaken for abuse. Keep in mind that if your anger is not controlled and escalates, it can lead to abuse. So if you feel that you're shouting at them more often, maybe shaking them, even pushing them or hitting them, please get the help that you need. Sadness. What sadness? Often, care partners often feel sad for many different reasons. Your life as you knew it has changed. Any sort of loss results in sadness. For example, seeing the person you are caring for declining, not being able to travel as you once did, or doing the things you enjoyed with friends. Loneliness can contribute to sadness, Anticipatory loss may occur. Even if your person has not yet passed away, you have lost the person that they were before, and that's very hard to accept. What is important to keep in mind is that feeling sad doesn't always mean that you're depressed, but sadness is one of the core symptoms that can develop into clinical depression. This is why it's so important to get help that you need so that the sadness does not escalate into a clinical depression. When you are depressed, you can feel sad for no reason. So I want to kind of look at what is depression. You know, depression is generally accompanied by other symptoms like fatigue, loss of appetite, trouble concentrating, you're irritated, not able to manage your daily tasks. For example, you don't feel like getting out of bed, you don't shower, you isolate yourself, you're either sleeping too much, you're not sleeping at all. So these are kind of the signs that you need to look for. So I'd like to ask all of you, ask yourself, are you depressed? But what I do want to say that it's normal to have bad days, okay? We all do. But if any of these symptoms are severe or last longer than 2 weeks, it's time to see your doctor. So if you're feeling empty, hopeless, or run down, you have little interest in activities you once enjoyed, you're irritated, trouble concentrating, even, programs on TV that you like to watch, you can't concentrate. Nothing seems to get you out of that. And always changes in your sleep pattern. So if you feel any of these symptoms, please get in touch with your doctor. Let's look at what is uncertainty. Uncertainty is the feeling of not being sure what will happen in the future. Furthermore, the unpredictable nature of the illness and conditions can lead to uncertainty about how the care recipient's health will evolve over time. Many care partners feel a lack of control, a shortage of awareness, and unknowns, especially when you do not have enough information about the disease progression and what to expect in the future. Makes perfect sense to be anxious and not certain about the future. Care partners are also uncertain about their own future. For example, what if the person you are caring for needs long-term care? What if you get sick? What does your future look like? Research tells us that uncertainty faced by care partners can contribute to poor mental and physical outcomes. Living with so much uncertainty is hard. Human beings crave information about the future in the same way we crave food, sex, and other primary rewards. Our brains perceive ambiguity as a threat, and they try to protect us by diminishing our ability to focus on anything other than creating certainty. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Joanne.
Sorry, just had to unmute myself. Thank you, Lucy. Can you hear me? Wonderful. So much information, and now comes the hard part. What do we do with all of this? Because as Lucy said, it's tough, but we want to take care of our physical and mental health. So let's start with some very basic tips to proactively manage your emotions. And I'm going to cover 5: to be informed, to take control, stay in the present, self-care, and self-regulation. So number 1, be informed. I know we always reinforce this message with all the information you need about the disease from reliable sources. By knowing more about the disease, you will be better prepared for what the future may bring, and at least it will minimize the uncertainty that Lucy just spoke about. However, keep in mind the disease progression, even if you're familiar with all the stages, it's different for each person depending on the type of dementia and your personality. So prepare for what to expect the unexpected. Stay informed about changing care resources available in your community through your care team. And inform yourself as well on what caregivers like yourself go through. As you are doing by being here today, you are being proactive. Number 2, take control of what you can. Establish a daily routine to give your days and weeks some structure. This helps us feel in control. And try and start your day on a positive note with something that you really enjoy. Some people can meditate, do a little bit of yoga, mindfulness, even just stretching, breathing. If you can, engage your care person to join you as well, especially in the early stages, as this is a particularly healthy regimen. And do your best not to dwell on what you cannot change. I know this is a tough ask, but this is wasted energy. Number 3, be present. Stay away from thinking about the what ifs. Do your best to focus on the now rather than focusing on the uncertain future. There's a lot of life to live now without anticipating what and when it may change. Self-care. See your doctor. Have yourself a good medical checkup. Tell your doctor how you're feeling. You may need to explore with him some counseling. Tend to your own health because you are constantly concerned about the other. Give yourself credit for what you are doing as a caregiver. And I want to mention that next month, our topic is on guilt and self-care. And number 5, self-regulation. This is about how to tend to our feelings. How can we consciously manage our emotions? And this is going to be the focus on the remainder of our talk today. So I also invite you to look at the faces on these slides, and maybe they can help you get in touch with how you are feeling. And I'm going to offer you today a simple formula. 4 words: notice, pause, listen, and act. And I'm going to explain them, but then go into each one in a little bit of detail. So number 1, notice your feelings. Be aware when they creep up. Number 2, pause. So for anybody who's been joining us for our monthly webinars, you know this is my favorite go-to strategy. So try not to immediately react or act on your emotions. 3, listen to what the emotional message is telling you. And only then do number 4, act. Plan your actions and respond. Now we're going to take a look at each of these 4 steps in more detail. So we're going to start with number 1, notice. As soon as we start to have a negative thought, and then perhaps a bad feeling follows, and our emotions intensify, sometimes you can feel that in your body. You know exactly where it is. Our emotions can intensify, begin to circle and spiral, just like the spiral in the slide. We get caught up in the sadness and anger, throw a little uncertainty. And this creates a stress pattern, both conscious and unconscious. And it can be an emotional recipe for disaster. This behavior can cause a recurrent thinking pattern. And when we repeat this over time, over and over, it actually can cause almost like grooves in our mind, in our brain, so that something happens and we just have such an unconscious way of reacting. So research has shown that how you view, how you think, and how you adapt yourself profoundly affects how you lead your life. So when the demands in your day are over capacity, this can cause stress. And when you're stressed, it changes your outcomes. It changes your behavior and it changes your performance. I don't know about you, but when I'm overly stressed, I get absolutely nothing done. And if I do get something done, it's not done very well. Now, it's true, some of us seem to get through better than others, even when facing the same obstacle. Why is that? So it's actually not what's in front of us that causes the stress. It's actually our thoughts that are trying to make meaning to what's in front of us. Now, we do have the ability, though, to take control of our thoughts instead of having our thoughts control us. So, if we can change our thoughts, this can help us better manage our emotions and self-regulate. How do we do this? By bringing awareness to your triggers and emotions. Notice what sets you off, what triggers you. Did your person do something that's making you particularly anxious? I know we had somebody write in with a comment and a question. When their person says something, it goes so against their morals and values that they just get so triggered. Was it a phone call or visit from another person, or maybe a family member you're caring with? So once you're more aware of your triggers and the emotions they cause, accept that they are normal. And we are repeating this. Lucy really said, all these emotions are so normal. Do not suppress them. Pretending can lead to more stress, more anger, and unhealthy life choices. So we want you to notice and allow your emotions to surface, feel them, and pay attention. However, pause. Avoid reacting. Avoid blowing up with anger or sinking so low with sadness. Pause before you react. And I want to again, as I always do, mention Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. And I just love his saying. And actually, I really do keep this sticky on my computer to remind myself. Between every stimulus and every response, there is this space. And in this space is our power to choose our response. If we can just teach ourselves how to tap into that space, which is awareness, and then gently shift our thoughts, by doing so, we can change or shift our emotions and ultimately then our behavior response. Now, it takes a lot of strength not to react, especially when we feel uncomfortable, especially if we've already developed that pattern, that groove I spoke about in our brain patterns. So it may take some time and practice to create that pause habit, but I promise you, if you work on it, you will succeed. So now what do we do in this pause? We breathe. This may sound simple, but this strategy is based on complex neuroscientific research. Use the breath to calm the brain. Think about it. Every situation, for everyone, there's a breathing pattern. If you're in fear, maybe you find yourself holding your breath, or maybe breathing rapidly. When you wake up or when you relax, there's a soft breath. So conscious breathing is a great stress response. It's the heart of all yoga and meditation practice. But we all can't be yogis, but we can all try conscious breathing for a few minutes. When you're consciously placing your attention on breathing, it brings the stress down, and this is how we can self-regulate our emotions. So I want to invite those of you who wish to try this with me right now to join me. Take a moment and just get comfortable however you're seated. And now I want to ask you to focus all your attention on your breath. Just notice the fact that you're breathing. Just notice your chest comes up on your inhalation. Notice your chest relax with your exhalation. And you notice I have my hand on my chest so that I can feel it. Notice your chest relax with your exhalation. Notice how soft the breath is as it comes in, and just focus on your breath. Notice when you breathe in, there's a small pause at the top of the inhalation. And as you breathe out, there's a small pause at the bottom of the inhalation. So what we're doing by noticing is we're focusing inwardly just on the breath. And just several seconds of this, or even a minute, is enough to calm you. The interesting thing is also that emotions are contagious. So when you start to do your breathing and you start to slow down, the other people around you start to slow down as well. This is so important as care partners because we don't want to escalate our care receiver's stress with behaviors of our own. So if we are calmer, then the energy we are putting out to them is calmer. Next step, listen. Now that we're calm, now's the time to calmly listen to what our emotions are telling us. We want you to reflect, what's going on? What insights can I get from this? What's the message? Emotions are like data. They're so important. So ask yourself, if you're having a thought and it's leading to a feeling, is this thought really true? Let's say let's say you visit the person you're caring for, you're spending a half a day there, and the first thing they say to you is, you know, it's about time you came to visit me. You never come to see me. It may trigger you, and you may think, oh, I'm spending all this time and I'm really not even appreciated. Now ask yourself, is this thought serving me well? How would I feel if I did not believe this thought? Remember, the person with dementia doesn't recall how often you're visiting and everything you're doing for them. You can try using a journal. Record when, where, what's happening. When is my stress going up? When is my stress going down? Monitor where the stress is. It helps to identify it even more. So we want to ask ourselves, okay, this is my challenge. What are some potential solutions? So write down, when are you sad? When are you angry? What are you uncertain about? This is how you process your emotions. And then ask yourself the question, so what is this dissatisfaction telling me? What could make the situation better? What do I need to do for myself? What do I need to take control of? If you can't talk about it with a trusted person or a counselor, here's your power to have influence over your reality. Listen to what the emotional message is and generate some options for yourself. Doing this is called self-regulation. It's not denying or pushing your emotions away. It's allowing them to be heard so you can work on figuring it out. And then finally, the last step. Now it's time to act or respond, make decisions. Only here where we're calm, because we have recognized our triggers, paused, and self-regulated. I invite you to try to manage your expectations, work towards acceptance, preserve your energy for what you can control, make decisions only when you're calm. And repeating this cycle will help you create a new cycle and a new habit. So I have to give a moment to complaining, okay? Maybe you're having a tough time. Should you complain about it? So we know complaining is the ultimate joy killer. Nobody wants to be around a chronic complainer, and constant venting and aimless whining can bring everybody down. The truth is, I don't like complainers, and it's the thing that it triggers me. I know that about myself, but there is no shame in complaining, and it's very important to recognize this. So why am I telling you this? Complaining is sometimes unfairly stigmatized. It's a natural part of being human. if we're not, if we're honest, we do tend to focus on what's not working as well as what is. So the idea of the idea of never complaining might seem unrealistic, maybe unhealthy. Actually, research shows that certain forms of complaining are part of being healthy, but we have to know when to complain. Complaining as a voice for our needs can help us figure out our emotion. Complaining to gain perspective, when we say it out loud, we can step back a little bit and gain some perspective. Listen to what we're saying. Complaining is a mood enhancer. It makes us feel better. I know with all the snow in the past few weeks, I think a lot of people have been complaining together about it. Complaining is a means to connect with people who are going through the same thing. However, proceed with caution. If complaining is your constant go-to, you need to try different ways to cope. Relying solely on this can lead to burnout, make you appear a victim, and strain your relationships. So choose your audience carefully. Avoid overloading and overwhelming others. So I just want to summarize before we close the 4 steps. 1, notice. Notice your feelings, what's triggering you. Pause. Remember that space between the stimulus and response, and breathe. Then listen to the message of your emotions and generate some options. And only then act or respond in a cool, calm manner. Now, you don't need to do this alone. Ask for help. There are support services in your community, support groups, and individual counseling. And of course, join us for our monthly webinars and all the services that the Dementia Education Program offers. So now Lucy and I invite you to have a caring conversation with us. We received so many questions from you. So we've taken note of a few, but we'd really like to hear from you if you care to join us. So I'm going to stop my sharing now. Ooh, there we go.
So we have a question already. It's, can you talk more about the relationship of my person's personality and the process of decline? Thanks. I'm not sure whether this is your wheelhouse, but
Yeah, that first question, it's a tough question. We can take a stab at it. I don't know, Lucy, do you want to take a stab or? So we did mention personality has a big impact on the different stages and also the type of webinar. We know certain dementias, though, bring on behaviors. I know that one of the questions we got also, so I don't know if it's the same person asking, was how do I differentiate between what's caused by the dementia and what's caused by my person's personality? And I'm going to tell you, I don't know if that's even possible. You can look at what are the patterns that I'm used to? What have I been dealing with for the time that I've known this person? It could be long or short time. And likely those are patterns of personality. And the other interesting thing about dementia, sometimes behavior patterns stay the same and intensify, and other times they actually lessen. Sometimes people have difficulty with impulse control. So they say what they've always been able to control and hold back. I want to offer this, though. Whatever the reason is for the different behaviors, how the person is acting, whether it's caused by the dementia or their personality, ask yourself if it really matters. You need to cope with it. You need to deal with it. So if it's bringing up these emotions, and maybe you've felt these emotions all your life, and now it's just so hard because you're in the position of caring for them, you're with them more often, maybe it's exacerbated. Go back to what we've presented to you today, your emotions, it's triggering you. Focus on that. Maybe not the reason, but what am I going to do with my emotions? What am I going to do with my reactions? And just I hope that you can try and put in practice all the information that we gave today and all the strategies to help. I think to get a clearer answer, you would really have to speak with a neurologist and an expert in this area. And I'm just going to ask Lucy if you have anything to add.
No, I totally agree with you. And what I'm going to say is that for some people, this is difficult, that acceptance. Many times we have to accept the position that we're in, and it's not easy to do so. So it's difficult, but it's almost because unless you kind of accept the situation and learn the tools that you need to handle certain situation, it is very difficult.
Is there another question? Maria, you are muted. We can't hear you.
There is a comment from someone who had to go, just saying, glad to realize that I'm on the right path. Have to go. Thank you. So I know that you have some questions.
Yeah, I'm going to, let me just go back to the, let me just see. I'm going to go back to the questions that were sent in, and I did pick a few of them. I want to start with and please, as I'm going along, don't wait for me to finish. If you think or you want to comment on a question, or even ask me or Lucy to elaborate on something we said, please go ahead. But so many of you wrote in, are my feelings normal? So I do think we've tried to normalize that. A question came in that particularly touched me, and I'll read it to you. It's from somebody actually who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I hope you're here today. You don't have to identify yourself, but it seems that most people are scared of me since I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. What should I do for them to see I am the same? I have to say this touched my heart. And whomever wrote this, you are so insightful. And I think you touched on two really important things. The first thing you said, most people are scared of me. They're not scared of you. They're scared of the disease. And it is about them. It's about fear. So you really nailed it on this. This is scary. And fear makes people back off. They're not sure. They're uncertain what to say. So it's really good that you are just to be aware of that. And your second piece, what should I do for them to see I am the same? Again, I feel like you've so hit it on the nail. You are the same essence, the same person, and you will always be. There is you and there is the disease. I can't speak for you and I can't speak for anybody who has this illness. So I want to start by saying that if you haven't already, a very helpful thing is to be with people who are going through what you're going through. And there are groups for very early onset and for young onset through the different community organizations. So I'm sure people who are going through the same thing would be able to answer this even better. But I know what I would like to say to somebody would be just to acknowledge that maybe they're scared and to let them know that I need them, that I'm still here, and help them know what you need from them, even if it's just to be there with you as much as you can, and accompany you along. So those are really the words that I want to share with you. I also want to mention that even if you say this and share what you need, some people won't be able to. I guess all we can do is have empathy and compassion for them and respect their wishes. Some people just will be, paralyzed by their own fear. But your courage, I think, can help other people along.
Thank you, Joanne, for that. The only other thing that I can add is that don't isolate yourself. Don't necessarily wait for other people to get in touch with you. There are a lot of people in your life, family members, friends that love you. So you reach out to them. If they're not calling as often as you think or you'd like to see them, pick up the phone, tell the person, I'd like to go for a cup of coffee. Are you available?
Thanks, Lucy. Maria, shall I go on with another, or are there
No, we
comments
have a
on
few,
that?
we have a comment. Someone wrote to say, I'm feeling relieved after attending the session, feeling so much more less alone. Thank you, truly. And then somebody else wrote, personality is particularly difficult as that implies volitional response. Limit setting, I'm not sure what that means. If dementia related, involuntary, try to figure out what underlies reactive behavior. But yes, I guess at the end of the day, it's the same difference.
Well,
I'm
I
not
also, you know what, let me invite, or just to recall, we also, we did, I think, at least a couple of sessions on dealing with behaviors. And I want to take the opportunity that I know I'm going to watch. There's an upcoming webinar, I think within the next week or two, given by Carmen Desjardins on McGill Cares in the Dementia Education Program, particularly about behavior. So maybe she would be a good person to ask this question to. And she is just such a wonderful and compassionate speaker. So I invite you to get more information on this topic in other webinars as well. Yes.
I can put a link to that web page.
That would be great, Maria.
To that page on our web. You won't be able to open it yet because it doesn't become available until March 5th. But it's also that one for the Francophones who are here today. That one is also available in French. So it'll be in French and English. So I have another comment here. No, it's a question. I'm especially anxious when I assume it's the person she's caring for makes unsafe behaviors. How can I deal with this?
Okay. Lucy, sorry, would you like to answer or would you like me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay, you'll get the next one.
I will.
Okay, so just the first thing is, when it comes to safety, you're right to be anxious. Say then we have to act and we have to assess what is the risk. And this is where you want to consult your professionals. And whatever the risk behavior is the person leaving the house, is the person leaving a stove on, is the person going to hurt themselves or others, then you have to act and consult your social worker, your physician. And I'm going to leave Lucy to make some other comments.
I think you also have to, what are risky behaviors? You know, there's all kinds of risk behaviors. I think it's important to get a good assessment if you're really concerned about the behavior. As Joanne said, obviously, if the person is turning on the stove, they're burning the food, there's things that need to be done about that. However, I mean, there could be other risk behaviors. For example, if you know that the person is going to get out of the chair and you know that they've fallen before. So these are all the things that you really have to take a look at and see how you can actually manage some of those. But the other thing that I want to say is no matter how careful we are, no matter how many precautions we take, certain risks are, you know, things do happen in life. And you cannot take that blame upon yourself as long as you recognize that you did everything within your power to make things safe at home. It could be as simple as get rid of all scattered rugs around so nobody falls and things like that. But I just wanted to make that point.
Excellent points.
So there's another comment here about, I guess it's the person being cared for. My father sees himself declining, losing his memory, etc., and he is so scared. So I guess that's a question about the fears of the person you're caring for. That's a big emotion, and how do you deal with that?
Well, the fact that your father is able to tell you that they're afraid, you have to acknowledge that and ask them really, what are you afraid of? Give them an opportunity to express their feelings and listen to what they're saying to you. And before trying to find any solutions, I think just acknowledging that you're there for them. And then if there are certain fears that maybe you can do something about them, then by all means, you could say, you're not alone. I'm here with you. We care about you. We love you. And these are the things. So I guess just really being empathetic, not trying to resolve everything right away, but listen and give them an opportunity to talk about their fears.
And she's responded, my father is 95, afraid he's going crazy, but you are correct. Just acknowledging it helps. Thank you for confirming it.
You're welcome.
And we have another comment. My sister has been drugged for her behavior at the institution. Should I be worried? I don't know if that's something you can comment on.
Yes. I want to make some comments about that. And generally it depends on the extent of the behaviors. I can tell you that in CHSLDs and most residential care facilities, the policies are the opposite, to minimize the amount of medication given and to minimize restraint. So that if an institution, to my knowledge, is giving medication, it's generally because everything else has been tried. But whoever is asking this question, you can ask that question of the care team. Did they try non-pharmacological approaches first? Because we've also talked about side effects of medication in one of our webinars. So we know that, it's a spiral effect. The more medication you take to treat the behavior, again, it can cause other side effects. So feel free to ask the question, what was tried? But for people who do have the most severest behaviors and are at risk of hurting themselves or hurting others, sometimes medication is a last resort. And sometimes it can take the edge off and can help them feel more better and less in distress. See another question, Maria? Maria, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So not at the moment, but I think you might have some, or
Okay.
I have some more here too. So
yes, I have this one. My wife was diagnosed with dementia, probable Alzheimer's 6 years ago. I stopped being able to care for her at home 6 months ago, and she has been in full-time care since then. I go into the CHSLD every day between 4 until I put her to bed. Toileting is a huge issue. The advice given in this meeting is going to help me with this daily struggle. Okay, this was a comment. I think just by putting your comments here, of course, it's validating for Lucy and I and our team, but I think it's so helpful to all of you, fellow care partners, to hear this. So we like this. Okay, so let me see if I definitely have some more questions to go to. I'm just going to pull
I have one I could ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Somebody noted that it's one of the things that they're feeling is it's very demoralizing not to have anything to look forward to.
Ooh. Okay, interesting. I'll start on that and then pass it to Lucy. You give yourself some time, acknowledge your feelings and everything we said today, and respect your feeling that it's demoralizing. But ask yourself, we always need hope. We need something to look forward to. So it may be time to redefine your goals. It may be time to look at, okay, what is life like now? And how do I want to go through this caregiving journey? What are my objectives as a caregiver? What are my objectives in my own life for the person whom I'm identifying with? So that's my offer to you. It's to relook at goals, because to go forward, to have hope, we need to know what's out there for me. What do I want? What do I need? And how can I look forward and getting there, even if it's taking the time with your person to enjoy a special moment now and then, to enjoy precious time, to take respite and enjoy the time that you can. And I will pass it back to Lucy.
No, I think you're right, Joanne. The bottom line is, it's almost as if giving yourself permission that you deserve to have a life as well. Really looking into what is it that you need. Remember, at one point I said that, there's two people in this relationship. One's needs does not outweigh the other. So it's very important for care partners. And it's not a selfish thing to think about yourself. Okay, it's not at all. It's actually very important to be able to put your thoughts down about what are your needs. And I'm going to use that word again, that whole notion of acceptance. It's in a way, this is where you're at this point in your life. And you need to look at, what is it that I need? Because really, when you give yourself permission and you give yourself a gift, in a way, you're not only doing it for yourself, but any of all those, those bad feelings that you have about all the things that you're doing and caring kind of gets diminished as well.
Lucy, that was so well said. And you know what? I want to read a few questions that came in that what you just said, I think, answers them. The first one is, somebody mentioned, my sister has early stage Alzheimer's disease. My emotions swing from having deep compassion and wanting to be there for her in her life and not in mine, and then a feeling that I need to protect my health and life. So this from one of our care partners, very well put, that whole balance between the two. Somebody else wrote in, no matter how much I do, I feel it's not enough. Like Lucy said, give yourself permission. The last question like this is, I feel that I lost my own identity, that all I am is a full-time caregiver to my disabled brother. Sometimes I feel like if I was in a hamster's wheel, running and running, but going nowhere. So I feel these are so eloquently expressed. And again, I hope that some of the strategies that we're giving can help you just manage all the emotions around this.
So there's a few more comments here, and then we'll end the conversation because we're getting to the end of the hour. The comment is, I struggle with understanding emotions, my own, of my person, intellectually, empathetic, but it's difficult to sympathize when reactive behaviors are help-seeking, rejecting, attacking me, and not soothed by listening, reassuring. And then they get angry, and then there's a cycle of me getting angry and then feeling guilty. I think that's
Well, it sounds
not uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not uncommon for care partners to feel this way. And I think personally that if you really feel like you're spinning constantly, it really is time to give yourself permission and give yourself a gift to go and try and deal with some of these emotions and really look at them. I mean, this is a 1 hour little with wonderful tips by Joanne, but it takes time to include all these tips into your regular life. And by getting support and getting the counseling can certainly help.
Okay, well, thank you, Joanne and Lucy, and all of you who are participating from home or work. The recording of today's episode will be posted on the Caring Conversations page of our website in the next few months at www.mcgill.ca/dementia. We want to know what you think of Caring Conversations, and so we'll be adding a link to a very short evaluation form in the chat, And we'll also send it by email. Please fill it out as soon as possible so that we can see what works and does not work and get your, if you have any ideas for topics to discuss. Next month, we'll be kind of extending on what we were talking about today. On March 19th, we will be talking about guilt and self-care. And once again, Caring Conversations is a project of the McGill Dementia Education Program, which is funded entirely by private donations. If you would like to join our mailing list to be notified about important programs and resources, please email us at dementia@mcgill.ca.